Happy Thursday. We are counting down the days until the celebration for the 200th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And it's kind of fitting that we're going to contrast what America should be, what America was envisioned to be, versus what America has become. I don't think there's any greater example of what America has become, and then to look at New York City, something that I'm kind of allergic to do. I don't really like to do it because I've kind of written them off a long time ago. But something caught my attention this morning when I was perusing the headlines that Mayor Zoran, whatever, Zoran, right? Not Zordon, that's the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers guy. Mamdani has decided to advise his citizens that because there's a big heat wave on, that they all need to set their thermostats to 78 degrees. I don't know, to keep the grid alive. All those years of fighting climate change and de-emphasizing, infrastructure, the things that you actually moved to a city for. You moved to cities so that you have access to the amenities. But now in New York, you got to keep it on 78 degrees, according to him. I mean, it's just a recommendation, but it did remind me. I mean, I'm not the best student of history, but I certainly remember the stories of what happened, especially towards the end of the end of the Soviet Union. The horror stories about turning off your electricity, and then, of course, coal not being delivered to the plants on time, and them just not having any power at all. So I found that very interesting. We're going to start there today. I think the city of New York, arguably America's greatest city, whatever that is. I don't even know how you define great anymore. I don't think it's the greatest city anymore, but historically it has been. I think the city of New York has a rough time ahead. The Paul Harrell program starts right now.
The Paul Harrell program.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here with me today, we ended up not getting Eric in seat number 3 today, but we do have co-host Rob Spencer back with us, sir. How are you?
I hope I can fill his shoes.
I know you can.
So, Eric is enjoying, it's summertime, so there's just a lot of traveling going on with family and stuff like that. Excuse me. And he is up in Missouri, where he is from. I'm looking forward to talking about this because it's just fascinating, what the city of New York has done. But let's not, be naive about this. This is spreading to other parts of the country as well. And is this democratic socialism? Are they going to continue to knock out these long-time Democrat incumbents? And what does that mean for the Republicans? Is that, to me, it would stand to reason that would drastically increase their chances of retaining, the House, which is, historically not really possible. They always take a bloodbath in the midterms for the party that is, out of power. Anyway, party in power takes a bloodbath. You get what I'm saying? So it's interesting. It's 78 degrees. No
thanks.
No. So we keep ours on, everybody's different. Everybody's got their ideal thing, but we keep ours on, we've got one of like the Sensi that's automatic or whatever. And it's 73 during the day. I would keep it cooler than that, but that's what my wife wants, and she's home more than me, so that's what's going to happen. And then at a certain time, I think about 8 or 9 o'clock, it automatically shifts down to 70 degrees. And they say that's bad for your, like your electricity bill and stuff, but that's what I want. I want it to sleep. I want to sleep with it being a little cooler. 78 degrees would be like, I'm calling the HVAC guy, trying to get him over there. Like, hey, well, listen, we're almost to 80 here, and I'm pretty sure we'll all burn up to death at 80. Mm-hmm. So let's get yourself over here.
I think you're right about that. I would be the same way. I think in the summertime we keep it at around 71 degrees in my house, and then in the wintertime, I think we keep it at 70. And I think every home is different too, because depending on where the thermostat is in your house, you kind of know how things are supposed to work. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. 78 degrees, that makes absolutely no sense. But if you're in New York, and that's what's also interesting, it's like, hey, this is New York City. This isn't exactly, some sort of tropical, climate here. You guys have to deal with hot weather, yeah, but not nearly the hot weather. Right now, the South is in a huge heat wave. It's really, really hot. And I know New York, it's hot for them too. But, I mean, you would think they'd be able to handle this because I obviously know it gets way colder up there, their electrical grid. But
well, I'm just telling you this. Okay, So if any of our listeners are in the Northeast here, you can chime in. But I've talked to several people who have been up north during the cold and been up north during the hot. And it just doesn't compare to what we deal with in the South because of the humidity. Okay. And you're like, well, humidity would affect the cold. And so I had a client, she was from Wisconsin, and she was relocating to Arkansas with her husband worked for the steel mills. Anyway, so she was moving here, and she just said, it's a different kind of cold than what we have up in Wisconsin. It's a different type of cold. And it can be warmer and still feel colder than it does at 0 degrees. So it could be 15 degrees here, and would feel colder than it does in Wisconsin at 0 degrees. And I was just like, well, that just doesn't make any sense. But that's also true if you ever go out to Arizona. I went to Arizona for a real estate conference in October, and it was 100 degrees actual. Of course, it gets up to 120, 130 there in the summertime. Well, anyway, that 100 degrees, I would rather have that. It was a dry heat. I would have rather had that than the 85 degrees with intense humidity where your whole body is just sweating and you're like, I just took a shower, so it was apparently useless because it's sweating all over due to the humidity. Yep. So I'm rambling on. You get the point.
I can attest to that. Yesterday, I got back from vacation. I had no hairspray, right? So I had done my hair. No hairspray. So I'm like, okay, I got to go to the store. So I go to the store, and in the time it took me to go out of, to get from my car into the store to come back out, my hair was all wet, and it was just it was ridiculous. Terrible hair day yesterday for me.
Yeah. So I'm playing in a golf tournament on Saturday, and I did something rare that I don't normally do because I haven't played golf in about a year. I've just been so busy. I just really hadn't had a chance to play. But anyway, I was asked to play in this golf tournament, and so I went out to one of the local country clubs today at noon. And of course, it's 100. It's 100 actual degrees here, or 97, 98 degrees, somewhere around in there. But with the humidity, I'm sure it's even worse.
That says 95 right now, but we're in the kind of the cooling of the day.
Yeah, it's cooling off in the afternoon. But anyway, so I was out there for 45 minutes, and I hit a large bucket of balls. There wasn't a spot on me that wasn't just completely drenched in sweat. And I was carrying my golf bag back to the clubhouse so that I could go out to the parking lot. And there's just this worker. I guess he works in the kitchen there of the restaurant in the clubhouse. This is out at Sage. And he was just, he was out there on the balcony looking down on me. He's like, walking awful slow there. I just said, I'm tired, man, dude. This heat is draining me. And then I thought, man, I'm going to play golf on Saturday, and I think it's supposed to be worse temperature-wise for the 4th of July.
Yep.
So what am I doing? I'm too old for this. I can't do it. But anyway, I was just sweating profusely, yep. And I had a change of clothes in my truck.
Well, and it's kind of interesting. New England is hot, as we just mentioned, but it was also apparently very, very hot when they were trying to sign the Declaration of Independence, when they were going back and forth trying to figure out, they were in this hot room at Independence Hall. They had the windows open, but then I think there was according to historians, there was such a fly problem that they had to close the windows, which made it even hotter.
So you're saying they didn't turn the air conditioner on?
They did not. They did not. Yeah.
What about those wigs? I'm sure that surely they took the wigs off for this.
Well, I feel like it was less of a wig culture at that time. There was wigs, but at least
that's just the way I envision it. And then you got these fruitcake judges over there in the UK that wear these ridiculous,
still trying
gay
to
wigs.
Keep the dream alive,
dude. It's and you have been charged with the offense of saying something mean on Facebook about someone. I don't know, this accent's not very good, but he's just reading this, and I'm just like, dude, you're the most beta, gay, just like females. You're not a man, and you just think about this. We've talked about it, how they're getting worse crimes for talking about migrant rape gangs than they are for the migrant rapists themselves.
Oh yeah, and I've got a story here about Tim Waltz and what he's doing, pardoning some guy that raped a 10-year-old, some Lausch guy, and now that he's been pardoned, he can now fight his deportation. He was scheduled to be deported. Now that he's been pardoned, he can apparently now fight his deportation. So we're going to talk about that.
Well, Paul, real quickly, did you hear about the California crap?
No.
Okay, so California in the same session they passed these two bills that if you are convicted, if you're a man and you're convicted of sexual assault, okay, you can no longer run for public office such as city council or anything like that. If you are an adult convicted of molesting a child, you are now allowed to do that. I had to look this up. I said, surely this is not the case. And then, of course, in the video that I saw, it was the older millennial. And in the video, I saw all the comments. And, of course, you had the libtards in there that were just saying, yeah, well, just look up, see where the pedophile states are. And you're like, okay, what a deflection there. Because what California just said is, rape an adult? No, you can't be on the city council. Rape a kid? Come on in. Disgusting.
So strange.
The Democratic Party is the party of pedophiles. I'm sure we've got pedophiles on our side,
but no, they are. But they're also they're the party of taking things that are just clear as day. A black and white issue. We condemn this. We call it evil. We call it wicked. They're the party of finding a way to apologize for it, to give it a new name. Then we'll start using the new name. Something like. Minor attracted person, which is a name, by the way, an acronym we should never adopt into our vernacular, just like we should never have adopted the term, heterosexual. I mean, the homosexual, okay, but then we started adopting heterosexual, and it's just, once you lose the vocabulary, it's their way to get their foot in the door. But here's the story. I pulled this from Zero Hedge. Throw this up on the screen. Set your AC to 78 degrees. He says, New York, it's hot out there, and the power grid is working overtime to keep us cool. Set your AC to 78 degrees. Turn off lights and electronics you're not using, and unplug what you can. Our city is doing its part, maintaining the 78 degrees rule in our buildings, blah, blah, blah. So that's what he's saying. Also, he says over at, this is from Zero Hedge, saying that the deeper issue here is that years of left-wing climate change policies and poor grid management have left the metro area and the broader region increasingly vulnerable during peak demand hours. Temperatures are forecast to top 100 degrees across New York and large parts of the mid-Atlantic and East Coast beginning today. But it reminded me of something, Rob, because a lot of people, I'm sure they know this, I'm sure our audience knows this, but towards the end of the Soviet Union, when the Soviet Union began to fail, and I think this was actually happening in a lot of places, but you had electrical grids in the Soviet Union, communism, and Mamdani is a communist. That's the connection here. Electrical grids were unreliable. You had coal deliveries that were delayed. You had power plants that lacked maintenance. Factories were shut down to conserve electricity. Cities prepared for scheduled outages during the winter. Of course, they had a much different problem, than what New York is having now. The Los Angeles Times reported in October of '91 that much of the USSR faced a winter of heat and electricity outages. I think I might actually have that story here from the Los Angeles Times. Soviet faces a dark, chilly winter of power shortages. This was from 1991, October 19th. But I wanted to find out if there was any Soviet-era propaganda, or Soviet-era messaging, just kind of like what Mamdani is doing, encouraging people to, hey, don't use government infrastructure because we can't give it to you anymore. And I did come across this. This is reportedly what you see on your screen here, a USSR image where you see we've got the kettle is on, we've got the heat on, we've got lights on, we've got the stove on, we've got all this electrical equipment. You got a light here and a light there. How dare you have a reading lamp and a lamp overhead? So I looked up this pronunciation, or I'm sorry, this translation. So this could be wrong, but let me make sure that I can find it here because I had it right here. Here we go. So apparently this translates to When leaving your room, turn off the lights. Citizen, do not rush. Look around and turn off the lights. So that apparently is what that poster reads, and I believe that's from 1946. Okay, then we go to, I think this next one is from 1984, a little bit closer. So this post over on Facebook is from 1984. Another official Soviet poster. Let's see here. Its message promoted saving electricity as civic responsibility. You can see that there. I don't have an exact translation. Soviet visuals on Facebook says Soviet poster promoting energy saving, but you can see this. So I am drawing this direct comparison because I know what New York City has voted for. I know what is coming from all of this. You know, aside from somebody like Mamdani, when this all crashes down around him in some way, you know, he's gonna ask for probably some sort of government bailout in the future, I would imagine. And there you go. I mean, this is what New York has to look forward to, unfortunately. And I have actually tried to. I mean, you guys, if you've been following the show for any short amount of time, anytime Eric or Rob or anybody kind of brings up Mamdani, I kind of just write it off because I'm not really interested in what's going on in New York City. You guys know that. But there are actually Republicans in New York City, and people have reminded me of this, I think, in my carelessness, and I think there's going to be a lot more that move out of New York City. But, you know, there are a substantial number. If you look at the polls, you look at, you know, what did Mamdani win by? You know, you do have a substantial chunk of the population that disagree with this, that don't want this, that are still New Yorkers. And
what is it? 80? What was it? There's 8 million people of voting age.
That sounds right.
In the city of, and he received 1 million votes, and you know he was first place. So I guess less than 2 million votes were cast.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And so that just goes to show you that you know he was elected, but he's not a true representative of the people. But the people that sat home and didn't go vote, they let it happen.
Well, and they probably don't care either way. A lot of those people that don't show up to vote, I'm talking about specifically there are people that disagree with that, Republicans, and there's a lot of them, and they're the ones that are going to suffer too, and they didn't vote for this, I guess. So when I say, hey, you guys voted for this, get ready, you know, there is a little bit of a like, well, you know, chickens come home from to roost. But then you got Republicans up there who are trying to make a living, who have made a living, presumably. They don't like it, and their city's about to be destroyed before their eyes, and they better get out while they still can.
And I think if he would have had a better candidate, you know, to run, I mean, you know, the dude that wore the beret that was a Republican, I listened to the debates. He's fantastic. He's exactly what you would imagine a Republican should be.
Yeah.
But he was never polling enough, and I just never understood why he didn't drop out, because then it would have been, you know, Cuomo versus Mamdani, and you know, there's a lot of people believe that they would have rallied around Cuomo, although how embarrassing for him to be the former governor and then run for the mayor of New York and to lose that way. But he also dropped out and then got back in the race. I mean, it was just that whole election was just chaotic and crazy. But I will say this: you got to give Mamdani credit for one thing. He came in, the stuff he talked about doing during his campaign. He's trying to do as backwards as I think that is, and how detrimental that's going to be, and how naive and stupid of just, he doesn't understand real estate. He doesn't understand, you know, these budgets, because your problem is not taxation in the city of New York, and that's his solution to everything. Your problem is your spending, and that's just nationwide. We have the same problem here in Arkansas, although we do run with a surplus. As far as I know, as last I heard, that we run with a surplus here. It could be better. You know, it could be. It could always be better, because there's always fraud, waste, and abuse.
The state of Arkansas has a balanced budget requirement. You can't run a deficit here. It's illegal.
Why is that not a government requirement? You know,
people have tried to get a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution for a long time, but you know, just like the idea of amending, now we got to amend the 14th Amendment, or you know, like it's never going to happen. You know, it's just not.
Well, I know it's very frustrating too, because you know, we talk about the Save America Act, and Anna Paulina Luna was on. She did a video, and she was talking about why it didn't get attached to this upcoming bill. I can't remember what this is.
It's the NDAA, right? Or that one failed. She wants to attach it to FISA now. Is that what it is?
No, it was a more recent one, the one that is just about to pass the House.
Okay.
And she said she was given this by Republican leadership, which would be Mike Johnson, which would be extremely disappointing. She said that that she was told that it couldn't go into the bill because it didn't. There's a word that she used. I can't remember what the word was, but essentially that it doesn't jive with everything because it's not directly. Oh, it's national defense.
Yeah, here it is. Luna digs in on Save America Act. Tell me if this sounds familiar. It was a few minutes ago. I don't care who hates me. Representative Anna Paulina Luna is digging in on her promise to rebel against Republican leaders over a bill to boost voter ID requirements, vowing to keep up her blockade that helped grind the House to a halt unless the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Save America Act is attached to a major multi-pass legislation. So yes, 1,000%. Quote, so yes, 1,000% the rule will go down until you attach the Save America Act. I don't care who in this chamber hates me for it. That's what she said on X. She fumed to fellow Republican lawmakers who have panned her strategy. Quote, don't worry, even though some of you are making comments about me in the press, I won't respond back with your incredibly brilliant stock trades that smell like insider trading, especially given your committees of jurisdiction. It's okay, the American people will do that for me, end quote. Luna's stand centers on trying to get the House to use any point of leverage to convince the Senate to pass the Save America Act, a bill pushed by Trump that would require voter IDs, proof of citizenship, voter registration. The bill has passed the House multiple times and has been debated in the Senate. Senate Majority Leader John Thune has repeatedly said there is not the support necessary to upend Senate rules and traditions like the 60-vote threshold that necessitates support from Democrats. Both this week and last week, Luna led the charge to vote against procedural rule legislation to tee up action on bills over the Save America Act. Most recently, she pushed to add it as an amendment to the annual Defense Authorization Bill. That'd be the NDAA. Her stand has deeply frustrated Republican leaders, though, who have tried to address her issues. This week's rule merged the defense bill with the Save America Act through an unusual MIRV strategy, which combines multiple separately passed measures into one bill. Luna insisted that the process would make it easier for the Senate to dismiss the Save America Act.
Yeah, we set that portion aside.
Yeah, they could just get rid of it and not worry about it, and then they'd still get their FISA warrants, because I'm pretty sure FISA is in the NDAA.
Yeah.
Quote, if you believe in election integrity, don't hide Save America in the MIRV. Put it in the bill itself. Statutory text becomes law. Everything else is only guidance that can be ignored, rewritten, or quietly discarded. The Senate, however, can also strip out any part of the bill's text that the House sends and kick it back to the lower chamber. Luna called to add the Save America Act to not only the defense bill, but also any bill to reauthorize the nation's spy powers on another party line budget reconciliation bill. So she is trying to do everything she can, and, well, at least it appears everything she can. And you said Mike Johnson said what now?
Well, she said Republican leadership. So this was a TikTok video of hers, and she talked about how she was told that they could not put it in the bill because it didn't jive with the rest of the bill, that it didn't make sense.
Like that has ever mattered before.
No,
we've been screaming for single subject, 3-page bills for years, and that never matters to these people.
Correct.
Now it only matters when they're ready to screw the American people.
Yeah, it's so lame, and that's why she came out and said, I was just so disappointed to hear that, because it was just bull. And then she had a video, like a blip up there that had like 5 or 6 different completely unrelated stuff that was in this bill. And, you're just like, okay, what does this have to do with national defense? Well, I would say securing our elections has a lot to do with national defense.
100% it does.
Because foreign adversaries have a vested interest in influencing our elections. If you don't believe that, then you're completely naive.
Yeah.
You don't need to be making decisions if you don't.
From what you're saying, Mike Johnson is completely naive and doesn't believe that. And, of course, we don't think he's naive. He's not. He's just, to your point, it's what he's claiming. This isn't germane. Well, no, actually it is. It is. You literally just proved just by common sense, Rob, that Mike Johnson is wrong here. He's obviously wrong. This is about national defense.
Right. That's the word I couldn't think of was germane. Yeah. You can tell you've been doing this for a long time, Paul. That's just your word. But anyway, so she's leading the charge, and unfortunately, somebody would say, well, hey, like me, I think a lot of Mike Johnson, I don't agree with everything he does, but I think a lot of what he does is great. And let's be honest, he's leading that entire House with a razor thin margin. And so it's always going to be a fight. But for him to say that's not germane when you have constantly you have all of these what do they call them, pork spending and all this stuff, like all of these earmarks, things that are just going to just completely random stuff. Like why were libraries getting additional funding during COVID? And it was and it was so that they could improve their facilities, but they weren't improving them with these air filtration systems. This was a slush fund. That's what COVID was. Trillions of dollars wasted there. I can go on all these tangents, but Anna Paulina Luna is doing everything that she can, and the people who are not getting behind her are showing their ugly colors right now, and I think those people need to be replaced.
Yeah, and honestly, the issue that we're tap dancing around here and is that some of these guys. I mean, I've already come to that conclusion about Thune. Thune actually can say all he wants. Well, we don't have the votes. No, you don't want the Save America Act to pass. You don't want election integrity because the donors don't want election integrity because the Intel oligarchy doesn't want election integrity. The Intel oligarchs want the ability to still control our elections. That's what I believe, and I don't put it past. I mean, really, does anything ever really matter? I mean, we can say, well, he's got a razor-thin majority, or, well, he may do some good things. But if you're not able to secure our elections, who cares? Literally, who cares what else you do? If you're not going to be for this giant issue that is now a 6-year-old issue in terms of on the right. I mean, we all saw what happened in 2020, and now we've made. If you're not willing to do that, like, I'm sorry, you're part of the problem. You're not a friend to the American people. You're a foe. You're a foe to the American people.
So, do you believe that when Saddam Hussein, because he was a president, a democratically elected president, we all know that's BS. But do you believe the ballots that were the voting numbers that would come back every time he would come up for re-election? He would get 100% of the votes. And it was like, okay, the age-old adage there that it does not matter who gets the most votes. It matters who's counting the votes. And that is exactly what these leaders are doing. And you got to think, John Thune, are you as corrupt as everybody else at this point? Because right now,
all of these rhinos are terrified. Every one of these rhinos is terrified of a primary opponent where we don't use machines to count elections and we have voter ID and no mail-in ballots. Every single one of them are. I know they are because they know deep down inside they don't actually represent the people. All of these rhinos, especially the pro-war ones, all know deep down that they're terrified of an equally funded primary challenger where we have voter ID.
Right. Yeah. And
that's what I believe.
I completely believe that. And also, just from a simplistic way of looking at it, Paul, it's hard for me to believe that there's not one or two or maybe 3 or 4 just big donors that are telling Thune, you will not pass this. Okay. Just as simple as that. And the donors, the special interests, those lobbyists, the ones that are padding people's pockets, that are making these members of Congress wealthy by the time they leave Congress, they're the ones that are running this. That's the deep state. These are the people that are in charge of our country. And us here 90-10 issue, 80-20, depending on what poll you look at, if we can't get that accomplished.
I know, and there's still plenty of people out there that are of the belief that, hey, we can still vote our way out of this problem.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
We can still vote our way out of the problem. And here's a chance to try at least glance in the right direction because they're still not doing anything about machines, and it makes no sense to allow computers to select our leaders.
Right.
If you know anything about AI or anything about the capabilities of the Intel oligarchy or whatever, and there's a lot of reports out there. But it's like, this is kind of a big deal. Like, there are people that are still wanting, and I'm one of them, ideally want to vote our way out of this problem. We're trying to do that, and guess what? We're not getting We're not actually seeing that come to fruition.
Yeah.
And then these guys don't want to fix it when we voted for them. It just kind of goes back to what we said yesterday on the show. Like we're now going down a path here that is extremely significant, because I think it's kind of a Rubicon.
Yeah. Yeah, just a couple of comments here. From Sonia Smith in our chat. Yes, he's terrified, talking about Thune. Yes, he's terrified, and he's in bed with all of them. I can't stand him. I hate traitors to the United States of America, and they should be in jail. I mean, those are strong words, but it's at this point, you are elected to represent the people of the United States. Every single solitary poll, the lowest poll numbers that I've seen for people in favor, in favor versus not in favor of the Save America Act was like 75-25.
Yeah.
Okay. I talked about this yesterday. I don't think we are, but for all intents and purposes, we are believed to be a 50-50 country. Okay. So if we're a 75-25, say nothing of the fact that most of the polls are 80-20, 90-10. If we can't get that accomplished, then you are not serving the American people. And we know that a politician, what do they say? Don't trust two people, a used car salesman and a politician, right? I happen to know a lot of used car salesmen that are good, honest people. But you got to understand what their goal is there, and you understand how the reputation comes into play. Of course, people say about real estate agents too, so I don't know. You never know. But anyway,
and lawyers.
And there's lawyers too. We're all cut from the same cloth, I guess. Anywho, John Thune is doing a disservice. I agree completely with Sonia here. He's a traitor to the United States at this point, because he was elected to do a job and he's not doing it.
And then look at this too. I mean, look at this federal judge. We still have all of these judges that are ruling against Trump right now. Federal judge blocks President Trump's executive order requiring states to provide mail-in voter lists before the U.S. Postal Service can deliver ballots.
Which is complete common sense. Quit mailing it out. They're a freaking person. The lady, I guess it was in 2020, she got the ballot in her dog's name.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the bad thing was it was a dog that died 10 years ago. You got a voting ballot for your dog. And she said, well, I used to order stuff online, and I guess maybe his name got in. I don't know how this. You're just like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And then all these ballots that get delivered. Have you ever seen a mailbox on a vacant home? They're there. Coupons still get there. They get in there. So this ballot's going in there. There's fraud everywhere. And the Democrats will, but where's the proof? Where's the proof? There was all these court cases and nothing happened.
You sound like that dog in the elevator. What's his name? The droopy...
Goofy?
Not Goofy.
Well, gosh.
No, going up, sir.
Oh, yeah. Droopy the dog.
Droopy dog? Or is it,
yeah, something like that. Yeah, I remember that. Anyway.
I think he's in the elevator in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. But anyway, they're just like, where's the proof? Where's the proof?
And you're just like it.
Yeah, and I just say, okay, if the proof was wiggling on your face right now, you would deny it. We've seen it countless times and I've talked about this on the show, and it just blows my mind every time I saw another video today. Countless times where these people are read quotes that are purported to be from Trump, right? And then it'll say illegal immigrants, jumping the front of the line. This is a terrible disgrace, and all of this stuff. And you're like, what do you think about that quote from Trump? Oh, it's terrible. That's awful. He's a racist. He's a xenophobic and all that stuff. Well, actually, that was from Obama. And then they'll say, I'm through with this interview. The evidence is right there, wiggling on your face, that you are only following orders from the mass media that is telling you what to believe and what to be mad at. And you can't stop and think for yourself, but yet you have the unmitigated gall to say that your party is the party of educated, understanding, heart-warming, accepting, loving people. That's what you sit there with a straight face and say. And you're like, you're an idiot. You're a complete moron. You don't even know how stupid you are if you're sitting there saying that there's no fraud in these elections. Joe Biden didn't get 81 million votes. There's no way. Zero chance. You're an idiot. So stupid if you think that that is the case. But yet, where's the proof? Where is it? It could be wiggling on your face and you would still deny it.
Sorry. I like that impression. It's good.
Yeah, that's my new Democrat
It reminds
voice.
me of DeSantis's impersonation of Hakeem Jeffries.
Yeah, and dead people don't vote either, do they, Paul?
No.
Yeah.
No, not
it's
at
amazing
all.
how the dead people always vote for Democrats.
Here's this story. A federal judge has halted the U.S. Postal Service's proposed changes to its mail-in ballot delivery procedures, dealing another blow to President Trump's effort to restrict the practice he has long criticized. Postmaster General David Steiner confirmed last week the service would not deliver mail-in ballots in states that refuse to hand over sensitive voter data to the Trump administration, telling lawmakers it was meant to ensure the right ballots are going to the right people. To
Common
your point.
sense.
But District Judge Emmett Sullivan on Wednesday sided with the NAACP and their argument that the proposal violates a December 2021 settlement agreement that required the Postal Service to prioritize monitoring and timely delivery of election mail through the 2028 election. So they have set themselves up again for another steal in some of these toss-up districts that are admittedly going to be close in November. And if it's close, the Democrats win almost every time because that's where they
name to me how it's too close to call. And it's like in California, it'll be a Republican versus a Democrat, and it's too close to call, and that Republican ends up winning. Name it.
It doesn't happen.
It just doesn't. It just does not happen. And we know that fraud absolutely happens, and it's the mail-in frauds that happen. I think there are very few people that are going to the polls that are saying they're someone else, but I could be completely wrong about that in these states like Minnesota and California that you're not even allowed to ask for an identification. You go in there and you vote and you say, hey, I'm this person, I'm this person. They're like, well, we checked the signatures. The hell you do. The hell you do. You're not sitting around checking 15 million signatures or however many votes come out of the state of California. You're a liar. You know that the fraud is existing. And the reason that you're not putting up a fight about it is because your party is the only party that I have seen that truly and consistently benefits from that fraud. And we've seen it a million times.
Yep.
Joe Biden, I know I just said it. There's no way he got 81 million votes. He was sitting in his basement running a campaign from his basement.
And I'll just say this. I mean, this is a leap because I know there's a lot more evidence that this benefits the Dems. But I'm telling you, nobody really, especially national outlets, nobody really takes a microscope or a magnifying glass to these Republican primaries. To these Republican primaries.
Do you think it's happening on our side too?
It's 100%. And you can go talk to Dr. Andrew Paquette. He knows it's happening on our side too.
There's some somewhat fishy stuff that happened here in Arkansas here with the Secretary of State.
Well, I mean,
possibly.
I'd let Brian Norris talk about that. But yeah, there are some reports about that. And that was a close race. But and that may have very well happened. I'm more talking about the more instead of like I guess a statewide race with national implications, right? Not necessarily a statewide race with just state implications. But yeah, I mean, it could happen at any, especially when paper ballots was a big topic there. You could potentially see how somebody would want to interfere.
Here's an interesting. Oh wow, this is really interesting from Bucklebrush Jones in our comments. Red districts. I'm assuming he's talking about throughout the state, the United States, but certainly in these blue states where they're trying to get a red seat. Red districts shouldn't release their numbers until all votes are in and counted, so they don't know how many they need.
This has been a strategy that people have said needs to happen for a very long time, but we're just too honest. We're the first to report.
Yeah.
We're the first to give the other side the noble information that they need to steal it.
Yeah.
But you're right. We should do that. We should do it.
Well, I just don't think that there's any benefit to releasing those ahead of time until, like, what is it like when it's 1% reporting? The joke was that Fox News has already called the 2028 presidential election for the state of Arizona.
Yeah.
You remember when they called that in 2020, like right after, and then it ended up, it was like, I don't know, what was it? Less than 20,000 votes that the difference was, but they called it immediately. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Because you got people still standing in line in the state of Arizona.
Well, that was a whole op. I mean, I think it was a former Obama guy who was in charge of the Fox News decision desk, and you can thank Paul Ryan for that. He went over to work. Yeah, he was all butthurt about
losing the vice presidency,
losing the secretary. He was Speaker of the House too, right? And so he was all in Trump 1.0. You remember, and that's why we didn't get a wall.
Yeah,
because of Paul Ryan.
Yeah,
right? And he just refused.
Yeah, and he gave that house back to Nancy. I guess she had it. That's the last time.
Yep.
That's the last time they've had the house, right?
Yeah.
Was in 2020 when Nancy had it.
No, we took the house. We took the house.
We had it in 16.
Yeah, and the pink trickle. I mean, McCarthy got it.
Yeah. Did we lose the house in 18?
Yeah, that would have explained the impeachments, right?
Yeah. It would have had to have been. Yeah. They wouldn't have. That would have been. So Pelosi was there, and then so I can't remember if we got it, but it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
But this is from Trump. Trump is now wanting DNI Pulte to declassify records. President Trump told reporters he instructed Acting Director of National Intelligence Bill Pulte to declassify whatever materials he chooses during his temporary tenure. There are people hoping that we get some election integrity, the same report that was put on President Trump's desk a year ago.
Yeah.
We're hoping that we actually get to see it. President Trump stated on July 1st that he directed Director of National Intelligence Bill Pulte to declassify almost any records at his discretion while serving in the role as interim basis. Pulte, who also leads the Federal Housing Finance Agency, assumed the acting DNI position on June 19th. He's expected to remain there for 1 to 2 months pending the Senate confirmation of Jay Clayton. Trump emphasized the short timeline, noting Pulte could declassify whatever you want during that period, including potential materials related to the 2020 election. The authorization aligns with Trump's broader push to reduce the size of intelligence agencies and specific documents. Pulte's appointment has drawn criticism from Democrats, including Senator Mark Warner, who highlighted Pulte's lack of national security experience and raised concerns over access to sensitive information. So here's the deal.
Listen, I don't give a damn what if you've got an objection to. You're a Democrat. I don't care if you have an objection, Paul. I don't care because you're not going to vote for him anyway.
Yeah.
So what the hell do we care what you say? If it's going to be this thing where you're going to give the man a fair, hearing and with honest votes, then okay, then I might listen to what you have to say. But I ain't going to listen to it. You're a no vote regardless. So shut the hell up.
Yeah. But on this, I've got to go on a little tangent here, and this is I don't have any of this in there, but I just got to go off on this for a second because it's very, very concerning to me. And it has to do, I've said this for a while now. In a perfect world, we would have monolithic narratives coming from the Trump administration.
Okay.
We wouldn't have this intel infighting. You wouldn't have a whistleblower coming out of the Diggs group that was an active CIA employee coming out of Tulsi Gabbard's Diggs group,
right,
testifying to Rand Paul's committee. We wouldn't have this. We wouldn't. If we heard in a perfect world. Okay, when we heard Congressman Rick Crawford, the head of the Intelligence Committee, who sat over there a couple of weeks ago, and he said, what a lot of people don't know is that when the ODNI was created in 2005, they didn't create their own computer infrastructure, and they still operate on CIA systems.
Right.
So the CIA could see or was able to see everything Tulsi Gabbard was doing. In a perfect world, we would hear that and be like, oh, well, that's okay though because it's a monolith and everybody's on the same side and they're not bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, they are bad guys. There's a mixture of really, really bad guys and very, very few good guys trying to do the right thing in this situation. Likewise, in a perfect world, we would have one pipe bomb J6 narrative. We would have one. But we have two. Okay?
Yeah.
We have two. Now, Steve Baker, the journalist who's now being sued for defamation by the Capitol Hill police officer who welcomes discovery, by the way, and do you know Steve Baker's law firm is the same law firm that's representing the black autistic kid that's been arrested, who has a shoe size of size 12. Okay. On the video, and I only know this because I watched the full video today of Steve Baker, and he went on Tucker Carlson's show. And I watched the full thing because I've been fascinated by Steve Baker's reporting here. And that's all they talked about was the J6 pipe bomber. And I'm just going to encourage all of you to go listen to Steve Baker. I know you may, dislike Tucker Carlson or some of the shows he's done in the past, but I'm a fan of maximum information, and you decide whether or not you think it's true or not. It was a fascinating interview, and the details surrounding what he knows and what other investigative journalists know about this pipe bomber is, well, they've got a video where whoever the pipe bomber was is walking on pavement stones.
Yeah.
You can go measure how big the pavement is because you know where she was walking.
Right.
She's got about a size 9 foot.
Yeah.
And Brian Cole Jr. has a size 12 foot. His foot literally cannot be. According to the video evidence, it may not be that Capitol Hill police officer, but it literally can't be this black autistic kid with a size 12 shoe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who's likely to be in trouble here in terms of
he's in jail right now. This
Right.
is what made me so mad. A few things made me mad. And that is when Steve Baker was prosecuted. I found all this out today. So Steve Baker went to January 6th, right? This was back when he worked at the Blaze, and he was prosecuted, and he eventually, had some misdemeanor. They were going to throw the book at him. He went into the Capitol, but he had a camera crew. He had, he was there as a journalist. They did the same thing to Owen Schroyer, but Steve Baker went in. They went after him for misdemeanors, and he was going to try to mount a defense. The defense was, hey, this is selective prosecution. Why haven't you brought in the New York Times? Why haven't you brought in any of these other journalists who work for these big name outlets that went into the Capitol? The judge says, you may not argue that. You may not argue. This just floored me. This judge, you may not argue selective prosecution. You're not allowed to. Then the judge also said, you also may not argue the First Amendment in my courtroom. You may not use the First Amendment of the Constitution, freedom of the press, to argue your innocence of these charges, is what this judge said. And then his
how's that going to, if he's convicted, how is that not going to immediately?
Exactly, but it just goes to show you how evil these judges are. That's what it's just struck me today. Had so many thoughts when I was watching this interview. How evil these judges are. It is. They are in the snare of the devil. It is horrible. To the point where his pretrial hearing, Steve Baker's pretrial hearing, happened right after Donald Trump won in 2024. So the judge was very, very, very upset, right? And he decided to go ahead and just plead guilty to all 4 misdemeanors because he had heard from Charlie Kirk that he was getting a pardon, so don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And the judge found out. Anyway, but it's all a bunch. It is a war. I mean, we are in a cold civil war with our own government and these different elements of the judiciary and these different elements of the intel oligarchy. And the reason the Diggs group got shut down is because Tulsi Gabbard's Diggs group was working with journalist Steve Baker to verify a lot of this reporting, which makes the CIA and the Capitol Police look very guilty. Okay, and so I say all this to just say that in a perfect world, there'd be only one pipe bomb story, but there's not. And we also have Tulsi Gabbard coming out after she leaves her role and saying, we're fighting the deep state, but the deep state is fighting back every step of the way. Yeah. Like we have black and white evidence from people who are basically telling us, look, this giant behemoth, this monstrosity, this Leviathan has not been brought to heel, and we have a real battle on our hands. And we first honestly need to pray that good men who are still in there will expose the corruption wherever it leads, and that the truth will come out, and there will be some relief for the American people by us getting accountability. Yeah. Because what and this is the last thing I'll say. When I found out, and I've been honest with this audience, I have always said I believe Steve Baker. I am more inclined to believe Steve Baker than I am Cash Patel.
Because why would he lie about it?
I looked at the reporting at the beginning. I know there's now a defamation lawsuit. I'm stoked there's a defamation lawsuit. I think it's fantastic that Steve Baker is being sued for because I want to know the truth, because I could be wrong about all of this. But it did dawn on me. I've interviewed J6ers. I've covered J6ers. I know what they went through. I know what our friend Derek Evans went through, being put in these gulags, being put in solitary, and being wrongfully imprisoned. And we sent guys in there to pardon them. And they did. We pardoned Donald Trump, to his credit, pardoned the J6ers, set the libs' hair on fire. That was awesome. But Steve Baker comes out with this report, and then a week or two later, they arrest a totally different guy who I don't think did it, who is now in jail right now, awaiting trial. So the implications here is if that we have the wrong guy, we're doing a J6 to somebody else.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. And here's the other thing, Paul, when they talk about, sort of a lack of evidence here, if you're going against the government, they're going to be able to spin this however they want to spin this, and at least get you convicted of something. They're just, when they have you in their sights, that's why the federal government has like a 95% conviction rate.
Yeah,
it's
right.
insane. It's insane, and you're like, well, nobody is that good. Nobody is that good. But when you have the full power of the federal government behind you, nothing can stop you. And, there were so many criticisms of those pardons for J6. There were so many criticisms, and we had these stupid reporters that would come out and say, well, did you know that this one guy you pardoned also was convicted or was later arrested for assaulting his wife, like punching her in the face? That he was also this or also that? And I just want to say, so convict him of that crime. Whatever crime he's done, convict him of that crime. All Donald Trump was trying to say is that he should not have been in jail for this crime.
Exactly.
Because it wasn't a crime. It wasn't. Everybody was talking about it being an insurrection, but yet nobody was charged with an insurrection. You're like, okay, because what? What's the penalty for an insurrection? Right? I mean, technically, it's if you're trying to overthrow a government, that's a treasonous act. You're probably eligible for the death penalty. But what insurrection happens without guns? All this stuff we've talked about. But it just blows my mind that they had such a problem with this, with these pardons, when because of the people they started digging through just to find these few isolated cases just to sling mud on Trump. And you're just like, yeah, but this dude walked through the Capitol with some weird, headdress on. You remember that guy that was, whatever, walked through there. Was he violently beating anybody? I mean, was he trying to get to Congress to beat them up and hold them hostage and say, damn it, you better not certify this election? No, nobody was trying to do that. They were trying to get close to the politicians to say, we do not agree with this. We are petitioning our government. They went too far. Whatever the reason with it, they went too far. And this pipe bomb thing was also you cannot tell me that wasn't an inside job.
They weren't even real pipe bombs.
Yes,
they were.
Correct.
They were fake. And even Baker said in this interview, he said, "Look, I am convinced to this day that he thinks it was the Capitol Hill police officer Shawnee Kirkhoff, and he says I'm convinced to this day she was told it was a training exercise." And I'm that's what he said. I learned so much. I learned a lot about.
Yeah.
I learned about, according to him, according to Baker, he actually. It was a crazy interview. He stumbled upon Shawnee Kirkhoff by accident. He was trying to find the direct energy weapons because he had heard. I know this is crazy, but he had heard and had it confirmed with 3-star generals and everybody else that the United States government has weapons that can give you a heart attack. They can make you defecate on yourself, or they can whip a crowd up into a frenzy. Meaning, like, they can actually agitate a crowd, and that these are weapons. And so he knew what they looked like. He knew who designed them. He talked to one of the people in the government that created this technology, okay? And so he was going through all the footage, trying to find the backpacks, because he said there was a few police officers that were dressed in black, but then they had Army camouflage backpacks on it. And so he was trying to figure out this and accidentally stumbled upon these Capitol Hill police officers firing their non-lethal projectiles into the crowd before anything had popped off. Right? So illegally, negligently firing before anything. And he could identify one of them. He could identify another one. And then there was this one he just couldn't identify. And he eventually was able to identify who that was. And so then he started looking into Shawnee Kirkhoff, that she was up there on January 6th. She was firing these bullets, allegedly. And, you know, even firing them into the back of Capitol Hill police officers who were on the front lines. Like hitting their own people on purpose.
To agitate them.
Okay? And so he starts doing research to try to figure out who this person is. And eventually figures out who she is. Figures out that she's now working at the CIA. Her whole social media is scrubbed and everything else. But ends up finding the old play. She played, minor league soccer. She played in college. And then he started seeing her walk, and because she had an injury. And he said, as somebody who has seen the J6 pipe bomber footage more than anybody, he's like, as soon as I saw her walking, I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. He was like, it was the gate. And then that brings up the whole gate analysis thing and everything else. And again, if Steve Baker, and by the way, in this podcast, there's also a Homeland Security guy who is unnamed, who's been murdered, allegedly, who was helping him with his story that apparently is going to come out in the future.
Yeah.
All that to say, Brian Cole Jr. had a superseding indictment dropped on him where they're now charging him with, like, weapons of mass destruction, which will be a life in prison sentence, which is kind of weird because the pipe bombs were not live bombs. They're trying to get him to do a plea, but he has refused to do a plea. His attorneys are not. He is saying, I'm not guilty. I'm not doing this. And so this is going to trial. The defamation is going to trial. And I want to know the truth. I want to know the truth. And I don't think we're getting the truth. I don't believe it was Brian Cole. I don't know if it's the Capitol Hill police officer, Shawnee Kirkhoff. I don't know that for a fact, but I don't think it's this black autistic kid. I'm sorry, I don't. You guys may disagree with me, and that's fine. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But this is a big deal because I'm told the reason the Diggs group was dissolved and all that great work Tulsi Gabbard was doing and all the other stuff is because they were verifying Steve Baker's reporting as accurate. And there was even a memo circulated that was never released for the public, but there was a memo that freaked the CIA out because it's really the CIA that's the allegation is the CIA's that behind all this, and they were setting up false flags. Also found out that the 247 plainclothes FBI agents that were in the crowd that we finally know were in the crowd, they actually didn't show up until 4 o'clock. The order for them to come didn't actually show up till 4 o'clock. So the FBI is actually less responsible that in terms of the agitators of the crowd, that it was allegedly, according to this interview with Steve Baker, was actually, a DOD operation, that this was active military in there agitating, which is what led him down the pathway to these direct energy weapons. It is a must-watch interview, whether you agree with it or not. The specificity there is there's so much specific detail that is not in dispute about how the pipe bombs were placed, where they were placed. There were 3 targets, the DNC, the RNC, and also the Congressional Black Caucus facility, but then they abandoned that one. It's crazy, man.
I know we got to go to break.
I'm sorry. I know we did.
I know we got to go to break, but I just wanted to say, if you think that those types of weapons don't exist in terms of being able to pop off and drop this stuff in there that makes people agitated and crazy and all of that, kind of like a shot of whiskey that goes through your blood. I mean, maybe not everybody feels that way about whiskey, but whiskey makes me angry, which is why I do not drink it. I'm a beer guy, but anyway, if you don't think that kind of thing exists, robots are driving cars. We literally have AI that can virtually do any thinking in a very short amount of time to solve these equations and all of this stuff. Like it is, this technology has to exist, and for you to ignore it and say, oh, that's a sci-fi movie, that's crazy, that could never happen, you're naive.
Yeah. Just real quick, before we go to break, you're exactly right. But here's a few of the comments. Let's see, KM144 says, "Thank you, Paul. You're welcome." Bucklebrush Jones says her shooting people in the face with rubber bullets isn't alleged; it's on video. We have Kim Vanoy says she also sat down on the bench and pulled her bra strap up on the left shoulder. We have Lucinuro 3, a female planted them. You can tell by her stride. Anyway,
Layla Artcore, beer makes you feminine.
Well,
I'm going to disagree with that. In the South, we drink beer down here in the South and hunt and fish. That's what we do. And I got boots.
I've got boots.
I tell you, I started recently wearing boots. I've never been a boots guy.
Oh, dude, it'll change your life.
Dude, I'm telling you, it changes my personality when I put them
does.
on.
It changes your personality. It does, but in a good way.
Yeah, yeah.
And not just cowboy boots, also just like a good rugged pair of outdoor, hiking boots. Like, but that are actually made of leather, though.
Oh, okay.
That'll also change your
I got a couple of pair of Justin boots that are just really nice, and I love wearing boots. It's a little too hot for wearing boots right now.
No, I've got a couple of boots, pairs of boots, and they last forever. I have Durangos. I've got two, like a nicer pair, but it's crazy, they last forever. From what I can tell, I mean, I've had these boots for 15, 20 years, and they're still they look great. They feel great. Yeah. They don't ever wear out.
Well, I was, some of my soul was coming apart a little bit on those that I'd only had for 3 months, and I took them up to that local boot store, Mom and Pop, that I bought it from, and they just replaced them right there.
Yeah.
And they said, "We'll send these back or whatever, but go get you a new pair off the shelf."
Good.
It was fantastic.
That's awesome. All right, dude, we're going to take a break. Don't go anywhere. This is the Paul Harrell Program. We'll be back here in just a moment, broadcasting on Elevate TV on Rumble, the Paul Harrell Program on YouTube. We are live from Arkansas, back here in just a moment.
For centuries, light has been used to heal. Awaken the body with Red 5.
I had 5 units that I purchased for the practice right out of the chute. Well, those went the first week that I got back to Houston. So then we ordered another 5 and then another 5. And I think over the next, 6 to 8 weeks, we had ordered like 35 units. And they're gone. They're still gone out of the practice. So we're excited about moving more of these units for our patients because they need them. And so when you bring in new technology and your staff's thinking, oh, this is another thing that I need to handle during the day, I think it's a good idea to give them a little incentive. And I do it as a team. So if one person does well, the whole team does well. So they all support each other. And they got really excited about that. They love it. They'll bring a unit in, turn it on, put it on the patient's foot or leg, and they'll tell the patients, be sure to talk to Dr. Parker about red light therapy. And the patient will say, red light therapy, yeah, I've heard of that, And so I'll walk in and my nurse is she'll tell me, I've spoken to Mrs. Jones about this red light therapy, and she's really excited about it. So Red Vibe has been fantastic for our bottom line.
My name is John, and this is my beautiful wife, Lori, and this is our Star Wars Ewok. His name is Scout, and we have Scout for about 11 years now, and we started noticing about 3 years ago he started slowing down. He was unable to jump on the bed. He was kind of a little bit grumpier. And when my daughters, Macy and Mariah, would take him on walks, he would walk for about, 30 yards, and then he'd lay down, and they'd carry him the rest of the way. So I heard about Pet Club 24/7 and about the products from a gentleman that I really trust and share a friendship with. And he mentioned to me that they have products that are going to help him with his arthritis, help him build his immune system. And I said, okay, no problem. Let's try them out. And I kid you guys not, within about 2 to 3 days, we started noticing a little difference. And then we took Scout on a walk probably about a week after we started using the products, the mush puppies, and he would walk the entire way. He would walk at least a mile, and it's just been completely amazing. He's a new dog. He's 11 years old, which is around, 80 years in dog years, and he's just happy. He's more energetic. He's not the grumpy old man he used to be, and we're just so thankful. And it was perfect timing because we lost our boxer Yankee about a year and a half ago, and it was really hard on us. So I'm so thankful for Pet Club 24/7 for the products that they offer. Imagine if you could have your best friend around one more day or one more week or even one more year. I'm so blessed and thankful that we were able to find this company and find these products for Scout. So thank you guys. Give it a shot. We appreciate you. God bless everyone.
For centuries, light has been used to heal. Awaken the body with Red 5.
MyPillow's second annual mega sale is finally here. Get our patented premium MyPillows that adjust to your exact individual needs to give you the best sleep of your life.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
Now for the lowest price ever. Kings, $19.98. Queens, only $18.98. And Giza Dream bed sheets, the best sheets in history, for as low as $29.98. Lux Pure 6-piece towel sets, towels that actually dry you. What a concept. Now only $39.98. And our made in the USA mattresses and mattress toppers as low as $99.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. But that's not all. Order right now and we'll ship your order absolutely free.
The Paul Harrell Program.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Broadcasting live from the great state of Arkansas. And a few of your comments here during the break, fantastic here. People are talking about beer drinking. By the way, interesting that the younger generation is actually not drinking. It's got a lot of alcohol producers really upset. But anyway, Bucklebrush Jones says MK Ultra was a beer op to turn people gay, a.k.a. Michelob Ultra. And I texted him during the break. I said, mind blown, because I'm not one of these people that I don't discount the fact that a lot of stuff is out in plain sight. Symbols kind of rule the world in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Anna Paulina Luna just did a whole panel on MK Ultra.
Listen. MK Ultra, Michelob Ultra came out because it was supposed to be it was like one of the first mainstream low carb beers. Okay.
Yeah.
And everybody, it had the slim cans. Like Michelob Ultra started the slim can phase, because now there's so many other slim cans, but they just really weren't. They didn't exist before then. Anyway, so it was cool, and you could carry one around at a party, and it was like just this, it just didn't seem like, oh, that's a Coors Light, whatever. I drink Busch Light, okay? I don't drink Busch Heavy because, I'm trying to keep the calories down, but I like Busch Light. It's low carbs, low calorie, and I like it. And it's kind of white trashy, but I like it. And they do a special can. Busch Light has a special can right now that's for the America 250, and it's got an American flag on it. It's pretty cool, and it's got, of course, a portion of all their sales go to farmers. So it's like I don't know what it's called, Farm Aid or something. But anyway, side note, doesn't really matter to what we're talking about other than we mentioned it.
Yeah, no, it was just relevant. It's in the comments. But this is also something I have to address that's in the comments. He also says, Bucklebrush also says, R.I.P., rest in peace, Paul Harrell. Paul Harrell was trending over the weekend, but it was about the YouTube shoot guy or the gun guy. This actually happens. I've noticed this too. I've got the exact same spelling of a late YouTuber who was, from what I can tell, just an aficionado about the Second Amendment as well as just guns in general, and people just loved his content.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
And I think he passed away of cancer. He got sick or something. And forgive me if I misrepresenting. I mean, I wasn't a big follower of the guy, but he has my name with the exact spelling of my name, and he's got as big enough following to where when he passed away, it made headlines. And I was working with some political folks And they they thought it was me. I mean, they saw it come across the headlines, and they thought it was me that had passed away.
Yeah, I remember this. I think it was Rolling Stone, which is just trash garbage. If you're not familiar, they used to be a respected, news, or I guess what is it called, magazine and all this stuff. They used to be a respected site, but they're just a liberal rag now. They hate Trump. They hate conservatives. Anyway. So they posted, happy birthday, John Carpenter, writer and director of Halloween. He would have been 73 years old today. Okay. John Carpenter replied underneath that. He goes, although it's tough to tell, I'm actually still alive.
Wow.
And so, that might be your thing, Paul. You need to hey, this ain't me. Maybe some other John Carpenter died. Maybe it was some other Paul Harrell.
Well, here's a good segue. Headline, New York Post, Mitch McConnell was found unconscious in D.C. home last month. May have suffered heart attack. Senator Mitch McConnell was found unconscious and may have suffered a heart attack. The June 14th call referenced medical personnel in an ALS or advanced life support ambulance being sent to his home shortly before 9 a.m. and mentioned that there was CPR in progress for a cardiac arrest. So here he is. Here's Mitch McConnell. I guess this is one of the last photos. I'm pretty sure he voted no on the SAVE Act.
Listen, I'm not like cheering for him to die, but I am cheering for him to get out of office.
I think this kind of sums it up. Rich Barris from the People's Pundit says, of course, it's evil to wish anyone ill health. But for the love of God, he says, why do we have to keep these skin suits after they stroke out live on television?
Yeah, he's done that multiple times.
Our country is failing, and we badly need new blood, not these geriatrics turning D.C. into a waiting room for the afterlife. And this goes with our observation months ago when we realized that the unconstitutional filibuster as it is now, not the standing filibuster, but the one where it's just procedural paperwork, the idea of getting rid of that effectively exposes people like Mitch McConnell, Chuck Schumer, and others as essentially not being equipped for the job. It would put them in the dirt if they had to stay up for 48 hours at a time debating a piece of legislation. We are being robbed of our own government on the paper that, people talk about the Constitution. Well, we have, it hasn't really mattered for a long time. Specifically, we've been robbed of the rancorous debate. We've been robbed of the, hey, you know what? If you don't want this bill to pass, you got to talk forever.
Yeah.
Okay?
Tell us why.
And try to convince us, or I'll even be cynical. Like, hey, you got to talk forever to give your lobbyist buddy time to pay off the other side. Even that system would have been better. Mm-hmm. You got to give us time to let the lobbyist pay off the other side so he changes his vote and the thing fails. Yeah. Like, even that system is better than what we have now, where they're essentially just boomer supremacists that have destroyed the system, robbing us of younger people up there that could actually stay up for more than 12 hours without needing to go to the hospital. So
yeah, I think that the ideal age for someone in government is, I would say roughly 50s is probably a better age for folks, just because they've lived a little bit longer. Yep. Probably their kids are grown. They've experienced life. Because I look at, like, when my wife and I first got married versus our relationship now, which is so much stronger, but it's different because of kids, right?
Correct.
When you add children in there, and then you go through all of these challenges of life, and you're getting older, and my wife is quite a bit younger than me. She's 40 and I'm 46. But I feel it, like I've got a lot of aches and pains and stuff like that. I'm told it only gets worse, Paul. But I'll say this, I would not have been qualified to speak on a lot of these topics 20 years ago, just because I didn't have enough life experience.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. And so I know you were talking about it a long time ago. You're making your name on Arkansas radio, and
No, but I mean, I feel totally different about a lot of issues that I felt really strongly about back then. Even
Yeah.
I mean, mainly libertarianism.
Yeah, basically, just however Matt Walsh is feeling is how I'm also feeling. That's like I'm just telling you, like I pretty much agree with Matt Walsh on everything.
He's like the angry father in us all,
Dude.
that just is a lot better with words than any of us are.
Yeah. And so I completely agree with Rich Barris here, the People's Pundit, when he's just talking about like, hey, I don't wish evil on anybody, but for the love of God, like, what are we doing here?
It really goes to show you the type of person that gravitates towards power. I mean, even in a democratic republic, if you have a increasingly immoral people, this system is going to attract people that want to wield power over everybody else, right? You want the person that doesn't want the power and just wants to do what's right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Does Mitch McConnell have grandchildren? Does he have a strong family? Why in the world would you ever want to die in office? Like, what possesses you to want to die in office? I mean, I guess I'm being cynical again here, and I have no idea if this applies directly to Mitch McConnell, but I mean, I guess if you are under blackmail, like so many it's suspected that so much of D.C. is run on blackmail, that you're not allowed to retire and leave, maybe. But I don't think that's the case. In this specific case, like, why do you not want to go home to Kentucky and spend your last years with your family, with your grandkids? And
Well, he's already wealthy at this point.
Exactly. I don't think that thought even enters his mind. And a lot of these guys' minds, I think it just goes to show you how completely disconnected they are. How can I not assume that they view themselves as some sort of royal priesthood that is entitled to stay, in these beautiful buildings and well-lit, well-carpeted rooms forever, and get the how am I not to assume that it is so it's so tempting, it's so alluring, the pomp and the circumstance of it all, that you just can't let go. The pride there has got to be an immense struggle for some of these people.
It just goes to show you the difference in age of some individuals. So like Mitch McConnell's 84. Nancy Pelosi, for all of her faults, she could still hold a sentence right now. She's always been she's always struggled with articulation of stuff. She gets so fired up about things, she'll stumble over her words like me. So even going back 30 years ago, she would always do that. So but I think as long as she's sober, like Nancy's still with it. Now, should she be in Congress? No, she's a crook. The woman should be in jail. That woman has, enriched herself at the expense of the American people with insider trading for years. And come at me, prove I'm wrong on that. But Mitch McConnell at 84, Donald Trump at 80. Are they even close right now? Are they even close? Let's just go with Joe Biden. Joe Biden is closer to Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell is closer to Joe Biden than Donald Trump. So although I don't like that our president is 80 years old, there's a difference. There's a difference there.
Of course.
Donald Trump is still with it, man. And so it's going to be tough to kind of sort of arbitrarily put maybe an age thing. But, hell, they do it with judges, Like I think here in the state of Arkansas, if you don't retire, is it 70? In the state of Arkansas, if you don't, you've got to retire as a judge at the age of 70. Or if you don't, none of that counts toward your retirement. You get no retirement if you stay. Somebody, if you're listening in Arkansas, and correct me if I'm wrong there because I'm not really sure, but Arkansas said, hey, we don't need you to decide whether somebody should go to prison or not if you're too old. Well, I would say a United States senator, especially the former Republican leader of the Senate, has a much more impactful job than just one single judge. Although now, as I say that, look at these federal judges with these nationwide injunctions and all that.
Yeah,
crap.
It's terrible. To your point, Arkansas judges generally face a mandatory retirement age of 70 to retain their retirement benefits. While there are no term limits, judges who seek re-election or continue to serve past the age of 70 will forfeit their pension under Arkansas judicial retirement.
Oh, so they're not going to do that.
No, exactly. They're out.
Yeah.
They
so
are
it's
out.
not just that those extra years don't count towards you. You actually forfeit your pension. So I mean,
what a great way to term limit a judge. By the
There
way,
you go. There you go. I mean, it's kind of like the Office Space there, where they were trying to fire Milton.
But that guarantee. Think about the thought process there. It guarantees you're not going to have some judge that is starting to slip but doesn't know it and gets a few cases wrong here or there. And that's why term limits make an incredible amount of sense for legislators, for Congress people. An incredible amount of sense.
Listen, I'll tell you this. My father-in-law is 70, okay? He is as sharp as a tack. I mean, dude, he's got good DNA because his mom is 94. She's still alive. Mm-hmm. His dad lived to be mid-80s, I think. So he's got a lot of life ahead of him, based off of just his genetics and everything. But he is as sharp as you can imagine at 70. However, he is enjoying his retirement. He's enjoying his life. And I think that these people in Congress, they cannot envision a life outside of power, to your point that you're making earlier. I think the post-power life is something they're unable to face. And so unless there's term limits, unless there's age limits on something like that, I just don't see. I mean, it could be struck down for ageism,
Yeah, but I mean, it's funny. You look at somebody like Michael Jordan, okay? And in the limited interviews he's done post, greatest athlete of all time or whatever, his amazing career, he says it's the worst thing ever. Like, it was the worst thing ever having to retire. And he, goes to Washington Wizards and, but it's terrible. But, it was kind of nature. Nature did its thing, and it was natural. Like, I can no longer compete because I'm getting older, right? So he had to retire. You don't really have that limit as much with politics, but it's still the same thing because you can say Michael Jordan loved it for the game that it was, but I mean, come on, who doesn't also love being the greatest basketball player of all time, being actively playing as well? There's a lot of that involved. There's obviously a lot of ego involved in somebody like a Michael Jordan. Anybody who has power, fame, a lot of ego involved. But with politicians, there's not that physical limitation, especially if you don't have the standing filibuster, because then they never have to actually prove that they are accomplished orators with long stamina. I mean, these people wouldn't even. Some of these people are already wearing diapers, and you're only supposed to wear the diaper if you actually have to do a standing filibuster. These people just wear diapers all the time. They just wear them anyway.
Yeah, they're sitting around. Good God, man. They rolled Dianne Feinstein, God rest her soul, rolled her in a wheelchair. She didn't even know what the hell was going on. They were like, oh, what? What? There's a video. It's just, it is sad. Cruel.
How cruel. I mean, it's just, it as much as I can't stand these people for what they've done to our country, I pity them.
Yeah, it's a pitiful video, and she's trying to vote a certain way at this committee. She's trying to vote, and she goes, I can't remember specifically, but let's just say I vote no. And her staffer said, oh, no, you actually want to vote yes. That happened, or something that she didn't even understand what she was voting on, folks. She had cancer. She was literally about to die because she died very shortly after that. And, they just wheeled her in a wheelchair. God bless her, man. I mean, she could not envision life after power. And she never faced it because she died while in office. So
Feinstein, back in Senate, relies heavily on staff to function. This is, when was this written? New York Times. September 29th of 2023. Look how decrepit she is.
Yeah, she lost so much weight.
Look
the cancer, the cancer that she had it's just pitiful, and it's so sad. It wasn't.
I mean, why in the world would you ever want that? I mean, does she not have children that would step in and want to take care of her? I mean, do you not have anybody that's like, hey, Mom, I don't want this life for you?
Was what age? 80 when she died. She was in her. She may have been in her late 80s when she died. I don't know. But I'm just saying this is what we're dealing with. And I want to say one thing because you brought up Michael Jordan. Have you ever listened to an interview there where he was asked if he's the greatest of all time?
Is it the one in the Netflix special?
There's that one, but he's been asked this multiple times. Okay. So he has been asked multiple times whether he believes that he's the greatest basketball player of all time, and he said, "I can't say that because every era is different." He's like, they were best of this era, best of that era, and all of that. Have you ever heard LeBron James? be asked.
Oh yeah, he thinks he's the GOAT.
He thinks
and
he's
it's
the GOAT.
Absolutely insane.
Yes. I think LeBron James is in my opinion easily top 10 basketball players of all time. I think you could put him on there. But I would struggle to put him on top 5, and there are people that have him as number 1. And I'm like, you just don't know what you're talking about.
You don't know what you're talking about.
You're talking about a lot of career stats. One thing you could say is he's had a lot of durability and longevity in it, and he's played, because he started when he was 18.
Yeah,
and he's 42 now.
But I mean, 6, 7, 8 years in, he had to go on a strict no carb diet because he realized somebody of his size, his joints were just not going to last.
Yeah.
So he had to shred all of that weight.
Yeah.
If he was going to have a chance to, play as long as he has.
Right.
He realized that.
And so he's not going to be a Laker anymore. He's probably going to go move on to Golden State to make a big 4.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, let's just put ourselves with the best people,
Yeah.
And that's how we're going to win a championship versus, you're supposed to have a team built around you. I digress.
No.
I
I want to say this because I'm not a sports guy at all, but I grew up watching Michael Jordan play.
Oh, of course.
And obviously, it's totally different. The comparison of of the fouls that are called now, the contact sport that it was versus the non-contact or not as much of a contact sport that is. You actually had the athletes, I believe, trying, whereas now the games, according to some of the FBI, may be rigged.
Oh, there were several games that were,
and maybe that was also going on back in Jordan's time. I don't know, but I watched that Netflix documentary that was released, and never before seen footage of
the final season in Chicago in 1998.
And I'm just like,
the Last Dance.
I don't care if LeBron James is athletically superior. I don't think he is, but I don't care if he is, because Michael Jordan's superpower was getting inside your head.
Oh yeah.
And finding a way, your weakness and scoring on you. He would just find a weakness and he would score on you, and he would exploit it every single time. And then you'd get upset and he'd get in your head. He was a psychological master.
Yeah.
It's obvious from that whole documentary that he's always thinking how to get in somebody's head.
Couple of things. You ever watch interviews and podcasts of basketball players during that era that will talk about Michael Jordan? And they'll say something like, oh yeah, I hit a jumper over him and I talked trash. I didn't score the rest of the game, and he put up 40, and then he let me know that at the end of the game. And Larry Bird was even talking about, like, a lot of people believe that Larry Bird was the most competitive, best trash talker of all time in the NBA, and I think he's severely underrated. I think I would put Larry Bird ahead of LeBron James. The only reason that somebody could argue that he's not ahead of LeBron James is just because Larry Bird's back caused him, a lot of problems in his later years, and he just wasn't the player that he was. But anyway, you've got all of these different people from different eras, and like I said, LeBron thinks he's the best of all time, and I just think that's so ridiculous when you think about it. And you touched on it, the softness of the NBA these days versus the bad boys, the Detroit Pistons in the late 80s. Okay. They would literally try to murder you.
Yeah, they would. And we went and saw the Memphis Grizzlies. Was it last year?
Yeah,
or was
it was last
earlier
season.
This year?
No, it was last season.
Okay, I can't even remember. It's been so long ago.
Well, it's
Anyway, we went and saw the Memphis Grizzlies, and yeah, that was great. You're watching these guys that are huge, but they don't really seem like they're trying. I mean, if we're honest about it, like, they don't seem like they're physically exerting themselves.
Yeah, they're athletic, so they probably make it look easier than what it is. But
yeah, I mean, I'm just saying it doesn't really seem like they care.
Well, okay, so Bill Laimbeer played for the Detroit Pistons, and they were the ones that just beat up on Jordan. It was called the Jordan rules.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, and so they talked about that in the Last Dance, but they just beat up on. Bill Laimbeer was one of the most unathletic people you've ever seen play basketball, and he was a starter for the Detroit Pistons, and he was an all-star and all that stuff. And dude was a menace. He wasn't afraid of anybody. Threw punches, took punches. Dude was just an enforcer. And he was unathletic or non-athletic, however, I don't know what that is. But regardless, that was the kind of player during that era that you had to deal with. Somebody that wasn't going to let you run to the hole without knocking you out. And LeBron complains and cries after every single solitary possession that he got fouled.
Yeah,
it's disgusting.
There's no flopping like there was. It's just it's so patently ridiculous, and yet there are a lot of young people that think he is the GOAT. But you didn't live through the 80s and 90s like we did. You knew you were watching something super special, even with somebody as young as I was with no sports the guy was like a superhero.
He would take over a game.
In that he just would not lose.
Yeah.
I remember one time I was watching and the Bulls lost a playoff game, and I thought it was the end of the world. I was like, oh my gosh, and then I found it, oh no, it's multiple. At the time, I didn't realize, you got to win 4 games.
I know you're not much of a sports guy, but
right. But I mean, when I was younger, then I was like, oh, okay. And then you get, anyway. But point is, the guy was like a superhero when we were growing up. And LeBron James is just not that.
No, and no one has ever really talked about like LeBron James just completely taking over a game and all of that stuff.
They
like
tried,
Jordan,
though. They tried.
But Bucklebrush was saying this in our comments, and I completely agree. I would put Kobe right behind Jordan.
Oh yeah.
Kobe was almost a clone of Jordan. In fact, that's how he geared his game. He just practiced. He was wanting to be just like Jordan. But Kobe would take over a game. If he had decided that this game was going to be taken over, he could do it. LeBron could do it. He's physically capable of it. But I've seen so many times, especially in the NBA Finals, where LeBron James in the last few seconds passes the ball. He doesn't shoot. And I'm like, everybody knew Jordan was going to get the ball. There's only a couple of times that he made passes, big passes at the end. Like in '93, he threw the pass to John Paxson and won, and then the one in like '95, '96 to Steve Kerr. Yeah. And he kicked it off because he was getting triple teamed. Yeah. It was a smart move.
Then it makes sense.
Yeah,
and those guys could shoot.
Correct. So anyway, we could talk basketball all day.
Yeah, we got off on a tangent here. Here's something to get really outraged about, though. Not LeBron. LeBron James is a lefty, by the way, too. I think LeBron James wants to donate. If not, he's trying to donate to Carmelo Anthony's appeal.
Yeah. When you said lefty, I was like, no, he's right-handed. And you're like, oh, he's a leftist.
Yeah, he's a leftist.
Yeah.
Headline, Tim Walz helps pardon Laotian man convicted of raping a 10-year-old by Scott McCallum over at townhall.com. Editors note this story contains graphic descriptions of sexual abuse. The Minnesota Board of Pardons on June 10th pardoned a man convicted of raping a 10-year-old girl, according to the New York Times. The 3-person state board, which includes Governor Tim Walz, I've become friends with school shooters, pardoned Tu Lu Vang from Laos a week before he was set to be deported. Vang was convicted in 2005. Vang had pled guilty to first-degree sexual conduct in a plea deal that prevented him from serving prison time. The pardon means that Vang can now fight the deportation. Okay? Pretty sick and twisted stuff here. Here's a few tweets.
So he never even served time in prison?
That is what this says.
And they're trying to deport him now, and so Governor Walz is pardoning him so that he can't be deported.
Now he can fight the deportation.
Who the hell should be deported
because
then?
He's no longer considered a sex offender.
You're talking about this guy was convicted, admitted to raping a 10-year-old. Step 1, put a bullet in his head. But if that's not possible, step 2 is to get him the hell out of this country. So he can't hurt American citizens again. God.
Yeah, so DHS is accusing Minnesota Governor Tim Walz of trying to shield a Laotian illegal alien pedophile from being deported after Walz pardoned him for a 2006 conviction in which he repeatedly raped a 10-year-old girl in Minnesota. DHS says Tu Lu Vang was issued a deportation order immediately after that conviction and was set to be imminently deported, but the pardon has now removed his deep deportable offenses and given him a clean record which may thwart his removal and give him an avenue to fight deportation. According to Vang's conviction, documents from the state of Minnesota in 2004, he repeatedly raped a 10-year-old girl on multiple occasions. I'm not going to read all of this.
Stuff, yeah.
Vang ultimately took a plea deal to plead guilty to the offense of first-degree criminal sexual assault. The New York Times reports he served no prison time as part of the deal. And now Tim Walz is helping him stay here.
That judge.
We all know what needs to happen.
The same thing that needs to happen to him. Of course, now, because here's the thing. The prosecutors and the defense, they come up with a plea deal, but the judge still has to sign off on it. So it's ultimately, I mean, all of them are culpable, but it's ultimately the judge's fault. Good grief, man. It's just so sickening. Like, there is no greater, I can't think of any greater evil thing to do than to rape a child.
I just think, I mean, we need to invest. Like, who is this guy connected to? Why in the world would you do such a thing that is obviously going to cost you politically, because the story is going to be written about? So who is this guy, and exactly why are politicians willing to take the hit? It can't be, well, we just want to fight Trump. This guy has to know somebody. How else do you confess to that and not do any jail time? This guy must be a powerful foreign national of some kind to be able to get this deal in the first place. And now they're taking the political capital, they're sacrificing it, which Tim Walz doesn't really have any left anyway, but I mean, he's already under investigation, for all of the fraud in Minnesota. Yeah. So why do you do this unless this guy either knows somebody very powerful or he's very important to something?
What do you think? I think I think you're probably onto something, because this does not make sense.
Yes.
When the details I was reading, but that you were not reading, and that was probably for the best, are disgusting. Mm-hmm. It is the most vile thing that you could do to a child who is I have no idea what the child's connection was, but to destroy the innocence of a child like that, every bad, horrible, terrible thing should happen to you before that bullet enters your head, because you should know the pain and suffering that you caused to that other person. And the exact opposite is what's happening right now. Every pain that he could be going through has been fought against, by our own government, through the judges, the prosecutors, the defense attorneys, and lo and behold, the governor of that state. Disgusting. Special place in hell. I hope that seat burns. I hope it burns you. Oh my gosh, I need to change the subject because I can't.
Let's see here. Just looking at the comments. I know. I mean,
it's very unchristian-like to hear stuff like this, because I think unchristian-like thoughts, but I just.
Well, I mean, the thing is look, it actually is, from a theological standpoint, hell's a real place where real people go, if apart from Jesus Christ. And the thing is him not getting the earthly judgments that he should get, and the government not protecting the innocent and punishing the guilty,
right,
punishing the wicked. You know what? What goes on after he's gone is incomprehensible to anything he would face here. I mean, it just is. So there will be justice in the end. There will be justice one way or the other. Then we have this story. So this is from Just the News. Brett Rowland via the Liberty Daily. I just think I want to put this back in the public domain because I care about this. The first 5 months of the second Trump administration, was awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And it had a lot to do with Doge. Just the News reporting that the Department of Government Efficiency will not issue a closing report when it officially ends July 4th. Office of Management and Budget Director Russell Vogt, who, by the way, is a great guy, he said that the $5,000 rebate checks it once floated never came. Or I'm sorry, he didn't say that. He said Russell Vought said that they're not going to issue a closing report. Just the News is reminding us that we have not received those $5,000 rebate checks that were reported. Quote, we have no plans to do a kind of closing Doge report, he said. Doge's own website reports $215 billion in total savings, or $1,335.40 per taxpayer, using an estimate of 161 million federal taxpayers. That $215 billion figure has not moved since January 1st. It's also just over a tenth of the $2 trillion target set at launch. There's too little reliable information available for taxpayers to verify. Doge's cost savings claims. Edward Lopez, senior fellow at the Independent Institute, a nonpartisan public policy research organization. So again, this is over at Just the News. The White House defended Doge's work, but did not answer questions from the center square about the cost of Doge, the total savings, or if a final report was needed. So here's the deal. If we can get over, if you would hope, especially after the midterms, but it would be great to do this now to really gin up. I mean, I know President Trump and Elon are, have kind of made up or whatever, and it doesn't necessarily have to be Elon. But let's just be clear how corrupt Washington, D.C. really is. He came in there as this special government employee and exposed it all. And Congress refused to do anything about it.
Yeah, it was almost daily he would post about, hey, we found this, we found that. It was just ludicrous. We all knew that it was happening.
Yeah.
But
it confirmed every cynical right-wing stereotype about the government. But it proved that talk radio, right-wing talk radio, wasn't cynical enough.
Yeah.
It actually proved that we were giving them benefit of the doubt we didn't even know we were giving them.
Yeah.
That's how bad the corruption and the waste and the fraud and the abuse was. Illegal immigrants being signed up for Social Security benefits, IRS refunds when they didn't even work, and also registered to vote. Elon Musk exposed all of this.
Yeah.
Where's the prosecutions? Where are the people? It hasn't happened.
240-year-old people receiving Social Security. 240 years old. And you're like, I'm pretty sure that person's dead.
Yep.
Okay? Probably never had Social Security. They probably died before it came in. Don't know what their actual...
You're probably right. That'd be a great strategy. That's probably what they did.
You're just like, hey, this... It just blew my mind. And when Elon Musk came out and said that he thinks that the fraud is closer to $1 trillion minimum, and you say, and they want to raise our taxes, and they want to do a new tax for this, raise this tax. Everybody's got to pay their fair share. They want to audit us. How about we audit the federal government? How about where was this audit that was happening? Why have we not heard a single thing about Doge? I actually forgot about Doge because it was out of the news because of the falling out with Elon Musk. There were powerful people that were working against it. Hell, they were the retarded liberals were so frustrated that Elon Musk was finding all of this fraud and cutting all of this in USAID. What did they do? Started burning down Tesla dealerships.
Yeah, we'll remember this.
Elon used to be one of you, right? Mm-hmm. You lost him. Instead of saying, why did we lose him? You're saying, let's destroy the man. Let's write him off as, President Elon Musk, because you had all these liberal Congress people.
I got a friend that owns a Tesla, and it was hilarious. Like, back in the day when he first bought it, he would get good old boy Republicans in big trucks pull up to him on a highway and peel out and smoke his car because, Elon Musk, electric vehicles, da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
Well, then Elon becomes a symbol of right-wing fascism.
Yep.
And then they burn down the Tesla dealerships. And then, interestingly enough, when the divorce happened, depending on how loyal you are to President Trump or not, in all things, now Tesla was bad again.
Yeah.
If in some circles, which is just ridiculous. But I do know that they are speaking again. I would assume you would think President Trump has got to know that when the Doge thing was kind of put on the back burner, and I know they still did work after Elon Musk left, but the media was trying to get Trump to fall into this Saul has slain his thousands, David his 10,000s vanity, because they were all pushing Elon Musk is really the president. Elon Musk is better than, they were trying to get Trump.
He's taking your Social Security checks.
Yeah, but
he's the richest man in the
world. But they
world.
were trying to get Trump to be jealous of Elon.
Oh, yeah.
Is what they were trying to do. But ultimately, it was with the big, beautiful bill. The big, beautiful bill is we were told something that, the country desperately needed to fund all this stuff. But Congress, guess what? They put all of the fraud, all of the waste that Elon exposed, they put it in the bill. Elon said, this is ridiculous, I can't support it, and that's when they had the big falling out. So
yeah, it's amazing. I look at who was speaking out against Doge, and then how about the people for you to have an opinion and publicly shame Doge and the efforts to cut waste, fraud, and abuse, you have to do a full financial disclosure to the American people. Mm-hmm. Let's see where your money's coming from, okay? Because if you're that hell bent on stopping Doge because you don't want some sort of fraud to be cut, or this will cut this program, or the stupidity of them to say that Elon Musk was after grandma's Social Security check, being the richest man in the world, he's become our first trillionaire. It's like you're so ideologically, retarded. I keep saying that word retarded, but there's no other word. Like, it's just so ridiculous. You're so intellectually retarded there that you can't see. He has no motive other than helping the United States. He wasn't getting paid for it. He somebody's like, oh, well, he was getting extra contracts. He was going to get those contracts anyway.
Yeah.
My gosh, SpaceX is a much better program than NASA. I mean, it's not even close. SpaceX is just completely working circles around NASA. So he was going to get those contracts anyway if you looked at them objectively. But, it was to the detriment of his business. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Tesla started tanking.
I agree. And I'm not necessarily one of these guys that's like, Elon Musk can do no wrong. I don't trust the guy that's working on brain chips and transhumanism, essentially, like the gateway to but at the same time, we look back and we can see what happened. All of that stuff was exposed. It really felt like we were about to get, you remember, and I know they still whisper it every now and then, ending the IRS, getting rid of the IRS. They still will whisper about it, but they were talking about it the first 5 months. The sitting president of the United States, which is something you would never dream of. In all the years I've been alive, 42 years, you'd never dream of an American president saying, hey, I think we need to get rid of the IRS.
Yeah.
We've got to get back to that, and we've got to do that by, diverting the nation's attention, to the Middle East and Iran and all this nonsense.
Ted Cruz, when he ran in 2016 for the presidency, he believed that you could abolish most of the IRS, and what he believed that tax returns, get rid of all the loopholes and all of that stuff should be reduced and done on a postcard. He said, there's no reason that you shouldn't be able to do your taxes on a postcard.
They should send you a bill, just like the county sends me a bill for the taxes I owe, instead of me having to sign an affidavit of how much money I made. It's ridiculous.
They know how much I should pay, but they want me to figure it out, and if I'm wrong, and if I overpay and I don't catch it, then they just got free money.
Right, and if you catch it the next year and then you get a refund, a double refund, guess what? That can trigger an audit.
You're going to get audited.
Yeah. That can trigger an audit because they're like, oh, we just paid this guy. It's insane.
Yeah.
And I will say this. I can't think of no better reason for the IRS to go away than the rise of AI. Because with the rise of AI, eventually you're going to get an administration that uses AI, and people are going to be harassed like you cannot believe with the IRS. AI is going to start flagging, oh, you made this purchase, you didn't, it's going to be insane. It's going to be absolutely tyrannical what is going to happen with AI in the IRS. So Amy Coney Barrett, obviously still getting the hate I think she deserves. Brian Sauvé writing, the last thing your country sees after everyone refuses to listen to all of us who told you that women shouldn't hold political office of any kind. Now, it was like, oh, I can't believe you would say that about women. Well, I've been following Megan Basham for a while. Megan Basham has actually said, she's been like, she actually said yesterday, we covered this on the show, all women Supreme Court justices have been disaster for America, is what she said. And, of course, the women are all upset. This lady, Ellen, is like, I'm offended by very little online, but this and the replies after it are so breathtakingly repugnant. So this was in a response to Megan Basham saying, sorry, Andrew, as a woman, I'm going to say it's obvious that every woman who has ever been on the court has been a disaster. So I think it's perfectly reasonable for people to say, don't put any more women on the court. This has made feminists really upset. She responds to the criticism by saying, I'm sorry my belief that sex differences are real and have implications for the public and private roles men and women play is so scandalous to you, but yes, this is my view. I don't believe Scripture bars women from holding public office or playing leadership roles in public life, but I do believe that our sex differences and the created order actually do matter, and it is preferable if men predominate in our public leadership roles.
I will speak to the current women court, okay? Because, even Ruth Bader Ginsburg herself said that Roe v. Wade was flawed and should have never been, of course she wasn't going to vote against it.
No, never. She would never, because she believed in murdering babies.
Yeah, and so she knew that it was a flawed legislative case, and so, but anyway, but I will speak to the current justices. Amy Coney Barrett, for the most part, has been a disappointment, because it seems like when we need her the most is when she falters. The other three liberal justices, Kagan is very intelligent. She is. I know
you've listened to a lot of Supreme Court arguments, which is a very difficult thing to do, but you actually enjoy it.
It's a weird hobby that I have that I love. I love listening to Supreme Court, or because there's no cameras in there. You're not allowed to have cameras in there. And so you can listen to the oral arguments, and it's fascinating to me. And now I'm not smart enough to follow it all, but it's fascinating to me. I've always been fascinated by the law. And Kagan is intelligent. Sotomayor is not. She's the one that thought that there were 150,000 kids in New York, in the state of New York, in the hospital with COVID, and you're like, no, it's actually 3.
150,000
She said that
kids?
She said it in a live argument from the bench that there were 150,000 kids in the hospital with COVID in the state of New York. I think it was the state of New York. Don't quote me on that part, but I believe that the 150,000 was, and you're like, no, that's remarkably wrong. It's not even close. Sotomayor is not very intelligent. And then, of course, we've got Ketanji Brown, what's it, Ketanji Justice Brown, or what is it? Ketanji Brown Jackson. Jackson. Listen, I want to tell you, that woman's a moron. I've listened to countless arguments, and every time she speaks, it's like nails on a chalkboard, because I'm like, I'm some dude from Arkansas with a bachelor's degree from college. I won't tell you the field, but got a bachelor's degree from college. I own a real estate company. I know nothing about the law other than what I've heard here. That's my qualifications, and I'm sitting here saying this woman is an idiot. She will give the most ridiculous arguments that you can't even. I don't even know how she gets from A to B, and she has said it in interviews that she believes that it's her duty to vote or to rule, like on decide her cases and stuff on how she feels. She said that. She said it's because I feel I feel like I have to make an impact on this court, and I will vote how I feel on it, rather than this is what the Constitution says. Now, obviously, because we have split decisions, very rarely do we get a 9-0 decision. Well, actually, we do get a lot of 9-0 decisions, but it's ones you never hear about. There's just not a lot of public to them. But guys, if you can stand, because each is about 2 hours. If you can, I want to challenge you to listen to it and to at least one of those Supreme Court cases there, because it is fascinating. And if you come away with that thinking that Ketanji Brown Jackson deserves to be on that court, then you may be as dumb as she is. So I will say this to the current women: they are a disappointment. I will also say this: some of my favorite chatters here are the women. I love Clee. I love Deb. There's Sherry is awesome. We've got so many great women. Wanda, all of these commentators. But I'm going to tell you what my wife said. My wife, who is a female. She's a biological female, okay? Let me just put that out there, because you never know these days. She said, I have no interest in a female president. Quote, we're too emotional, end quote. And I said, well, honey, you said it. I'm not. Whatever. I was like, oh, no, you'd be,
Please tell me you didn't. Please tell me you said, actually, you're correct.
I did not say that. I did not say.
100%
Damn straight. I'm glad you finally admitted it, woman.
Now go make me a sandwich. And don't cry about it.
Don't cry about it. No. I I feel like I have the least crazy wife that's ever existed. Like she is, I've been, I've had several serious relationships. I don't know why I'm going off on this side tangent here. Several, relationships here, but she is the least sort of emotional person that I've ever been with, and that's why I married her, and I've been with her for 16 years. Anyway, so that's straight from her mouth. That's not something I would go up to my wife and say, hey, I would never vote for a woman for president, because truth be told, there are some women that I would vote for if they're a Republican. If Anna Paulina Luna was old enough,
depends on that. Obviously with anything in the lesser of two evils, the situation, it is what it is. You never know what situation we're going to be faced with. There is that Bible verse about female rulers are a method in which God judges nations, and I think that rings true if you look at just how feminized everything is now, and everything's operated from the how does this make me feel instead of what is right. Sometimes look, I got spanked when I was growing up, right? It made me feel bad, but it was the right thing for my father.
I got the hell beat out of me when I was a kid, and I think that made you fall in line. I was a terror. I needed my rear end beat. But
all that to say, I'll just say this from my own experience as somebody, especially back when I was on. I didn't come to this conclusion. I came to this conclusion with just experience. So I've worked with female legislators at the local, state level, and good ones, ones that are conservative and have fought the fight or whatever. But I've also seen one of them that I'm not going to mention who it was. This was years ago. Somebody said something in a committee meeting that was, that was directed at her, and then we were strategizing with this piece of legislation, trying to get it passed, trying to do what we can, and she broke down and cried. We were in a room, me and one other person and her, and this one remark made her break down and cry about how hard this is and everything else. And it dawned on me. I was like, honestly, my reaction was she has no business being down here. Now she is, and she's doing the best she can, and she's fighting the good fight and doing good things. Yeah. But it did dawn on me, I as a man, that's not going to happen. You're not going to get upset and cry because you lose an argument or somebody says something to you cross in a committee, right? We're not going to get emotional about that behind closed doors and cry.
Well, unless you're a liberal
right,
man.
But you see what my point is that to what Megan Basham is saying here, it is good for men to dominate or predominate these fields. And I think we've seen the results when that doesn't happen. Our whole country gets taken from us.
Well, and every time Democrats try to put a woman up, just think about it. In 2020, what was their option? This old geriatric guy that could barely form sentences, or you had several women of color. At that time, you had Tulsi Gabbard, you had Kamala Harris. I forget all who ran on that Democratic side, but you had all of these. There were, black people. Is that the year Cory Booker ran? I can't remember. I can't remember Cory Booker. Anyway, you had all these DEI people over here that you could have voted for. What did they do? The old white guy. That's who they put in there on the Democrats, right? And what do we see here recently with Tennessee eliminating the Memphis district?
Yep.
Right?
Rob Al Ghul.
Yeah.
Activate Rob Al Ghul, League of Shadows, Memphis division.
Memphis. And so guess what's going to happen in that district now? A black woman is going to win. A black woman who is a Republican.
Is that really current? Because I thought there was another guy that was running.
No, so she's going to win because it's going to be a Republican district, and she's the one that's been going against that dude who just looks like a complete goober because he's all this stuff. But it's a white man representing Memphis, and all these people say, "Oh, we've got to have representation." Okay, great. You're now going to be represented by a black woman, and you're a predominantly Memphis is 65% black, right?
Yeah.
And so you've got this opportunity. Hell no, we're not going to vote for them because she's a Republican. It's not about that skin color. It's about their ideology.
Yeah, 100%. Rob Spencer, I appreciate it, sir. Have a Happy Independence Day. Happy 4th of July to you, sir.
You as well.
I'll be back here tomorrow here on LFA TV and other platforms. We're going to bring in the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. God bless everybody out there watching. Want to give a shout-out to our sponsors, Red Vive Health, New Horizon Real Estate, Gateway Sight and Sound, Pet Club 247, and Sherrod Chiropractic. God bless. We'll see you tomorrow.